So welcome back. Today I want to do a quick video on the Stihl FS131. I'd already done a video of me using the brush cutting blade to clean up along the roadside. That blade is pretty aggressive. If you get into the siding on your house, your masonry along flower beds, there's a lot of things you can get into that blade and it'll tear it up. It'll do some damage. And that's where the string comes into play. This string is a lot more forgiving if you get too close to, say, a tree or your wife's landscaping or just whatever you might have around your house. Now that blade, you barely touch it, you could tear some stuff up with it. So it's great for, as I use it, anything outside of my yard, I use the brush cutting blade. Anything inside the yard, I switch to this blade. So let's talk about how do you actually change out the string on a weed eater. Now, it really doesn't matter what weed eater you have, FS131, or you have really any other weed eaters, because most all weed eaters, it's either the exact same or something very similar. So how these work, and you don't have to take this off of your weed eater. Some weed eaters, you can't take this off, at least not easily. This one you can, and we'll show you how to do that in a minute. But just for ease, because it's already off, because that blade's already on, let's go ahead and string this first, and then we'll swap out the blades. So this is oriented like this with the weed eater coming out like this. So it'd be sitting just like this. So pretty much all weed eaters, you're gonna have to flip your weed eater upside down. Gets a little awkward, but you can handle it. I promise it's not that big of a deal. On your weed eater, most weed eaters have string coming out two sides. So there should be some string coming out this side as well. 90 degrees off of them, so my strings are here. Top and bottom of how I have this oriented, there's going to be two little buttons. Push those in, and then this is going to come out. This is pretty standard amongst a large variety of weed eaters. Almost every weed eater is built exactly like this. And then you're going to be able to pull the spool out. So I have string on the top and I've lost the string on the bottom here. So I'm just going to throw this away and we're going to start fresh. The easiest way I've found to do it is to measure out your string first. And to do this, it's really simple. All I do is I use my thumb to hold the end, at least for the start, and then I just string it on. Not worried about orientation, not worried about direction. I'm only worried about getting it in relatively even. I keep a pair of scissors in the shop. A pocket knife will work just well. And keep in mind, you're gonna have string sticking out. So this isn't a coil it up nice and tight and cut it right here. I'm gonna go ahead and add, let's say 10 inches, right about here. Now, if I'm wrong, most weed eaters, if not all, have little cutting blades on them. Should be right about here. So if your string's too long, it'll actually cut it to length, probably on your third or fourth revolution. That's pretty quick about doing it. So I will stick my string back through these little holes. So by sticking it through those holes, it'll keep it nice and coiled, and so I can store it on a shelf. And you really probably don't need this much string. This is actually the Stihl 2.7 millimeters or 0.105 inch. And it's 728 feet is what came on this roll. So at this point, I have this measured out to how much string I need total. But I got two sides to deal with. So we will find the middle of this and cut it. So I'll pull it all off and I'll attempt not to make a big rat's nest with it. So I'm going to grab this end and then I'll grab this end. Where's my ends? So I got the two ends in one hand and I'll just keep it as even as I can without making knots. And of course, it's actually going to try to gnaw on me. There we go. So right here, where my thumb's at, it's basically the middle. And I don't have to be exact. You know, if it's a 1/4 inch off, a 1/2 inch off, if it's 3 inches off, it doesn't matter. So, pocket knife, cheap scissors, whatever you got handy, you just cut it. So I will take one of these and set it aside for the moment. Okay, so I'll just set that one aside. Okay, so now this is where you kind of have to pay attention to your specific weed eater. Mine has these little diagrams on it to show you the direction to spool your line. So it shows a line that starts here, comes up and kind of makes this J hook, and then it coils around clockwise. So what that's telling me is there's these little holes that I'm taking the end, I'm going to stick it in that hole as far as I can, and then I'm pulling it backwards on itself, and then I'm coiling it. Now this is where you don't really want to truly rush it. You want to take a little bit of time, and you want to try to make your rolls as nice and even as you can. So just keep coiling it up. And don't fight the natural lay of the coils. You see how it wants to coil anyways? Don't try to force it to coil in the opposite direction, because that's just going to bind it up. It wants to lay in a certain direction. So use that to your advantage and just coil with it. And once you get to basically the end, most of them also have these little hooks that you can kind of clip it into. Now, they usually don't work great. So at this point, I'm going to do my best to keep my thumb on here throughout the rest of this, because I don't want this to all come undone as I'm doing the rest. So again, I'll double check my diagram. Fish hook going in this direction, and then it J's around. So I'm finding this hole. I put this in the hole again, and then I pull it tight, and I start coiling. I'm trying to keep it as tight as I can, and I'm trying to let this twine dictate how it goes on. You know, it naturally wants to lay in a certain direction, and that's from spending the last however many months spooled up. Now the reason I'm using these top hooks is so that way the string's pointed up, or actually it's pointing down when it's truly oriented properly. And we will just put it right back in. And at this point, I'm going to kind of turn it a little bit. I'm going to pull this string down, and I'm putting it into its little guides. Okay, I'm going to keep pressure on that one. And keep pressure on that one. So I now have the string going through its little guides, and then it's just a matter of putting your cover plate back on. You just click it back on in place. I'm not completely done because I still need to swap out the blade. I would actually like to put the string on here. So when you buy one of these brand new, it comes with a couple tools. One is literally just a little bar, and the other one is a socket that fits this nut. Now, this nut is a 19 millimeters, and I lost that little bar pretty much within the first couple of weeks of me owning this thing. Haven't seen it since. Don't know what happened to it. Not a big deal. You can use anything that is small enough to fit in this hole, but strong enough to put force against. So a Phillips head screwdriver probably would work, but you know, it's kind of rounded, so I wanted something that's, you know, nice and blunt at the end. Hence, I went for a star bit. So I put the star bit in this little hole right here on top of the cutting head, and I'm turning the blade until I feel, there it is. So I got another 1/8 of an inch of the screwdriver pushed in, and now this blade is actually locked in place. Now, you know the saying, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. That holds true with almost every nut. But this one is righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. And if you actually look on here, on this one specifically, it has arrows that say loosen nut clockwise. So clockwise in most nuts and bolts is tightening. But in this case, it's a reverse thread, so it's actually to loosen it. And by using it, it will actually tighten itself up. So getting it off isn't always the easiest, but at the same time, it shouldn't be gorilla strong to get it off. So it's a Loctite nut, and you got this little spacer that has the little gear threads on it, and then the blade comes off. So to put this on, super simple. All you do, actually got to make sure you leave that on there. Again, it's not righty-tighty. You just coil this on, spin it on to the left. And I just go hand tight. Yeah, kind of strongman hand tight, but not gorilla strong. And that's it. So this weed eater is ready to use. Now, if this is one of the first times you're using a weed eater, keep in mind, always wear hearing protection and safety glasses. These things will catch rocks and they can fling them back at you. So, hearing protection, gloves, that's kind of the bare minimum. You know, it's your body, your tools. Be responsible for your own safety, but my strong recommendation is bare minimum safety glasses and hearing protection. Other things to keep in mind you might want is steel toe boots, leather gloves, you know, the hard hat with the full face shield, you know, to protect your actual whole face from rocks coming back at you. Those are all great things to have. Pretty sure the operator's manual recommends all of those. So I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please click like, subscribe. All of that helps my channel. Share this with a friend. Just be safe out there, and good luck to you. Hope you have lots of hours of fun times with these weed eaters. They are fun. You can do a lot with these things. You can clean up a lot of property with the string or the brush hog blades. So depending on your applications, you know, might not be a bad idea to get both. It's super simple to swap between the two of them. So if you're getting into some thick stuff, put the brush hog blade on. If you're getting ready to go up against somebody's house or your house, then obviously switch back to the string. So good luck to you. Hope to hear from you soon. Bye. So this is where I always store my weed eater. Is right here hanging along my wall. This could be a wall in your garage, shed, your call. But if you can have a place to hang your weed eater, it's kind of more convenient. Keeps it up off the ground. So if the weed eater's sitting here, I pop this little screw in the wall. So this is where I keep the blade when I'm not using it. And then I also put that piece on and the nut. So I have all three pieces right here, safely secured along the wall, right behind where I hang my weed eater. So, and then if this is the piece that's left on the weed eater, then that coil of string, the string cutting head, also fits on that screw. It's just a deck screw. It's probably sticking out of the wall about 2 inches. I think it's a 3-inch deck screw that I only sunk in about 1 inch. So, just a little tip for organizing, keeping things nice and clean, and making sure you can find stuff from one summer to the next. Because it would suck to lose any of those pieces, because then you gotta go buy more. So it's just more convenient to know, hey, I got my weed eater hanging here. One cutting head is actually on the weed eater, and then the second cutting head is sitting right there, ready to be changed out. So, just a little food for thought. Alright, now I'm done.